is Black parents have been seriously miseducated about special education. They do not understand what it really is. And too often, Black parents are led to believe that special education is some sort of solution, that it is a dream world that their child will walk into and suddenly have their problems fixed. And the saddest part about Black children in special education is that most of them don't need it. What they need is remediation. What they need is more practice. What they need is a tutor. And I tell parents all the time, if my child was delayed in a skill area, they would get a tutor. A person working with your child for 45 minutes to 90 minutes twice a week is going to improve their skill levels much better, much quicker than a special ed teacher. In fact, the IEP is misleading itself when it says individual education program, because rarely is it individual. Rarely will your child get one-to-one help. Most of the time, they're going to be helped in large group. It's not even small group anymore, because so many children are being put in special ed that some of those classrooms are getting just as filled as the regular education classrooms. So Black parents need to understand that special education can cause more problems than it actually solves. And part of this is due to the misleading nature of the system of special ed. Because when you are a special ed student, when you have an IEP, you are graded based on progress towards the annual IEP goal. You're not graded based on progress towards state standard. So if you got two kids in the 4th grade, both of them got an A in reading, the report card doesn't tell the one parent that your son's A is not based on achievement. It's based on effort. This kid has an A because he's mastering 4th grade reading curriculum. Your son is not mastering 4th grade reading curriculum. He has an A because he is progressing towards his IEP goal. And it is that right there, that fact, that reality that is misleading Black parents into thinking special ed is working because they have a child who came home with all F's last year, and now they're coming home with all A's, and the parent thinks it's because special ed is working. No, your child is making an honor roll because they're not being graded based on achievement. They're being graded based on effort. That is one of the things that need to change. I think every child in special ed, their report card should be very clear so parents know your child's grades are not a reflection of achievement. They are a reflection of progress towards the IEP goal. But let us be honest about something. Special education functionally is used to perpetuate the Black-white test gap. It is used to perpetuate the myth of Black intellectual inferiority, and it is creating a permanent underclass of Black children. The more we push special ed in the Black community, the fewer opportunities Black children will get. Now, let me clarify. Okay. I'm not talking about the deaf kids and the blind kids and the brain injured kids and the orthopedically impaired kids. I'm not talking about the speech and language kids and the moderate and severely intellectually disabled kids or the moderately to severely autistic children. I'm not talking about them. Most of our kids are not in there for that. Most of our children across America are in special ed for a learning disability that you cannot prove. You cannot prove a learning disability. If somebody can prove it, I want them to show me how. You can't. I've been evaluating children for 25 years. You cannot prove a learning disability. It is a professional opinion. It is an academic hypothesis. It is not a scientific fact. Number 2, emotional disturbance, which is the most subjectively applied label in special ed. So many Black boys across Pennsylvania and across this country are classified as emotionally disturbed because they can't get along with one white teacher. One white teacher, and now they're diagnosed or classified, as emotionally disturbed. Well, if you look at the definition, the federal definition of ED, it clearly tells you that it must be a pattern of behavior where the child has trouble building and maintaining relationships with teachers and peers. It doesn't say teacher, it says teachers. So if a child is being classified as emotionally disturbed because one white teacher don't like them, that was a misclassification. And then your ADHD for other health impairment. That right there is probably the greatest miscarriage of justice, because you have Black boys who can learn. Some of them are the smartest kids in the class, but they have an IEP for ADHD. That's behavior. They don't need no IEP for ADHD. What they need is a 504 plan. But the schools don't want to give them a 504 plan because they don't get a subsidy for the 504 plan. They get a subsidy for the IEP. So they streamroll all the Black boys into special ed for ADHD when those boys don't need nothing other than a 504 accommodation plan. But if the parents don't know, the parents can't stop it. And that's why I wrote the books that I have.
So you have some parents right now and some grandparents, just as importantly, that are listening, that might not know about the 504 plan versus IEP, because to your point, the schools are not really pushing the 504 plans. They're pushing the IEP. They're pushing that over characterization of what the student might need based on their professional opinion. You talk a bit about the 504 plan for those parents and grandparents who don't understand what that is. And this would be a great point, point to bring up your book at this time that helps them along the way.
Okay. 4 differences between the 504 and the IEP. And I just saw as well, Brother Carl, before we began the broadcast, I saw a flyer for a Juneteenth program in Harrisburg on Sunday the 20th. I can't promise anything, but if my Sunday is open, I will try to fly back from Atlanta in time, because I have Atlanta on the Juneteenth day, the 19th.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to try to fly back and drive up from the
we take care of you when you get here. You already know that.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna try to get there. I'm gonna try to get there and bless the mic.
No doubt.
So 4 differences between the 504 and the IEP. Number 1, an IEP is for children with learning disabilities. You cannot get an IEP unless you were evaluated by the school psychologist and classified with one of 13 learning disabilities: autism, speech and language, deafness, blindness, brain injury, orthopedic impairment, intellectual disability, specific learning disability, developmental delay, the 13 special ed disabilities. You must have been evaluated and classified with one of those 13 disabilities in order to get an IEP. To get a 504, you can have any disability that affects your ability to function. That's the second difference. You get a 504 if you have trouble functioning in school. You get an IEP if you have trouble learning. I'm going to say this again. You get a 504 if you have trouble functioning in school. You get an IEP if you have trouble learning in school. Okay?
That's right.
The third difference: when you get an IEP, there is modification of the instruction, which is just to say that we're going to dumb down the learning for the disabled child. Okay? So IEP, you can legally change the curriculum. That's what the IEP is. It is the curriculum for the disabled child in the disabled area. So now that you have a math IEP, we're going to change the curriculum. A reading IEP, we're going to change the curriculum. So an IEP allows for modification of instructional goals. 504, there is no modification of instructional goal. You have a 504, you are still expected to perform as well as everybody else in the regular classroom. The fourth difference: with a IEP, okay, you're changing the curriculum. With the 504, you're giving them accommodations. A 504 is an accommodation plan. I'll give you an example. You have 3 Black boys diagnosed with ADHD. One is going to get a 504. One is going to get an IEP. one is going to get nothing. Let me explain the difference. ADHD boy number one, his inattention and hyperactivity is affecting his ability to learn. His grades are struggling. He's failing tests because he can't sit still and pay attention. He's going to get an IEP because his ADHD is affecting his ability to learn. Only if it affects their ability to learn do they get an IEP. So that's ADHD boy number one. ADHD boy number two, he's the smartest kid in the classroom, but he can't sit still and pay attention. Is his ADHD affecting his learning? No, it is not. His grades are fine, but it is affecting his ability to function. And since his ADHD is affecting his ability to function, he will get a 504 plan that will give him accommodations, such as a one-to-one aid, such as a behavior plan, such as regular breaks from the classroom, such as extra time to take his tests. So he's going to get accommodations. But is he still expected to do 4th grade level work? Yes, he is. He must still achieve at the same rate as the other children. He only gets accommodations. He does not get his instruction modified like the IEP kid will. The third kid has ADHD, but he's not going to get an IEP because it's not affecting his learning, and he's not going to get a 504 because it is not affecting his functioning. The point I'm trying to make is Black parents all across this country have to stop letting schools put their children in special ed for ADHD. If that boy can learn in the regular class, I don't care how hyper he is, I don't care how inattentive he is. If he can learn in the regular class without special ed, why in the hell does he have an IEP?
There you go.